Hey, I'm Scott,
And I'm Charity.
and we're pastors of Saint City, a church outside of St. Louis.
We've been together over 15 years
And we've been through a lot.
and are going through a lot.
We failed and succeeded,
We've flown and we've fallen.
and we've lived a whole lot of life along the way.
We've worked together more than 15 years in marriage, in ministry, business, and parenting.
And did I mention we have 4 kids, 9 and under?
And if we've learned anything, it's that life is not about the arrival.
It's about all the life along the way.
Hey,
I'm Scott,
I'm Charity.
and welcome to Life Along the Way, episode 2
What?
of our brand new podcast. So we are excited that you've decided to join us today. And if you've listened to our first episode, you kind of know that life is a little bit interesting when it comes to the things we've been through.
So as a recap, we kind of started off last week talking about really the premise of what we're wanting to share on our podcast, which is really that life is not about arriving, especially from like point A to point B, or from getting married to having a job to having kids to getting a promotion. It's not about all those peaks. It's really a lot of our life happens along the way, hence the name. And last week we kind of talked about how we started off and how we had a lot going on and a lot of detours, even just getting married because of some medical emergency and all sorts of craziness.
The before the wedding. So one of the things we kind of teased in that first episode is that, things didn't slow down once we got married. As a matter of fact, things got even more interesting, and almost like immediately after the wedding, things continued to be a little bit crazy.
I'd say I always tell people that I used to have a very normal life until I married Scott.
Yeah. I bring a lot of fun, extra, and interesting things to the picture, I guess. And if you were if you were to meet Charity's parents and then meet my parents, stark contrast. Big difference.
Understand why.
And so, I believe nature and nurture play a big part, but let me tell you, it's interesting. And
Yes.
it is just so interesting. So here we are in all our glory, and we are just super excited to kind of bring you along with us on this journey. So what we kind of did in the first episode was talk about this road trip that we're on. And in the process of this road trip, if you're so focused on that destination, you can miss all the things that happen, all the things you can see, all the momentary pit stops, rest areas, emergency room visits, births, celebrations that you can be having before you ever reach that final destination.
Yeah, and that's really, what life is the journey. It's not the destination. And so we kind of talked about how we started off, but today we're going to talk about kind of post I do.
Post-wedding. And, with that comes a lot of just heartfelt things that took place during our wedding. We had just the most awesome day. But as soon as the wedding was over, I don't know if you remember this, but one of the first things that happened was we were getting ready to leave. Mm-hmm. And as we were exiting the place where our reception was, we needed the keys to our vehicle to get to our hotel.
Yeah, so it's, like 11:30 at night. We've been up all day, stressful week. And we go to Scott's truck. We're about to go to our honeymoon suite. And he doesn't have the keys because one of the groomsmen had to use the truck to drop somebody off at the airport or grab, I don't even remember why. So we're sitting there, talk about anticlimactic. Everything's done. We're about to go and just be done with the wedding, go to our hotel, and we're sitting on the back of his tailgate by ourselves. It's like 95 degrees, even though it's 11:30 at night, in our full wedding garb. And we have, it's not like everyone had a cell phone on them all the time. Like, you have a cell phone, but it wasn't like it is now.
They were flip phones. You had to answer the phone. There wasn't, if you text, you were going to be spelling your words out.
And spend like
numbers.
$45 a text.
So, if we were a little bit more creative. We could have called this podcast like Life from the Tailgate.
Oh yeah,
You
that
know.
happened one time though. So
It was only a one-time thing. I mean, we only have a little truck now, but we had a big truck.
yeah, we did.
And so people are leaving the reception. As a matter of fact, the place is cleared out, and we're just sitting on the tailgate, folded down, of my pickup truck. And Charity's in her wedding dress, and I'm in whatever I had left of my tuxedo. And it's late, and we're on the campus of the University of Illinois. So it's somewhere between 11:30 and 12:30 in the morning. So 11:30 p.m., 12:30 in the morning. And I remember some people coming out saying, what are you doing sitting on the tailgate? You don't seem too eager to be getting to your hotel suite. And believe me, we were exhausted, but we couldn't. Do you remember what happened for us even to get the keys back?
I don't remember. I just remember being really hot and my feet hurting and being like, is this real life right now?
Yeah, so some random person ended up having to help us find the keys. And I remember going back into the facilities, which was kind of locked, and getting mopped up, and it was done. And we make it over to the hotel that we were staying at there in Champaign. We were on the edge of Urbana and Champaign. And as we go in, of course, I've got an uncle who I love. He was like, throws his arms around each of us. Hey, guys, what room are you in? You want to party? We can hang out. And we're like, my aunt walks up and no. You leave them alone. And you guys, you go up the elevator yourself. And really,
dancing.
It was a big thing. I was so excited to have this particular hotel room because we got what was known as the presidential suite. And so the presidential suite was pretty epic. Big living room, big like entertaining area, separate master bedroom suite. And we basically got up there. My uncle did not follow us to our room, thankfully. And, it just kind of began the way that it was going already, didn't it?
Yeah, so we get up there and, we're all excited because we have this awesome suite. It's like an apartment. I think it was bigger than our apartment at one point that we had together.
For sure.
And looking back, I'm like, holy cow, like how much emphasis did we put on this one place? And we were there for less than 12 hours. I don't even think we turned on the TV. I don't think we used the mini
babe,
fridge.
We didn't turn on the TV.
Oh Lord. But it's just so funny how sometimes we build these things up, not just our weddings, but whatever that looks like. We build this thing up into our mind. Like we have to have it this certain way. We have to have, this timing and this space and all this. But when it really comes down to it, we're not even able to enjoy it. But we went through all the stress to make sure it had to be a certain way. So really, it's like our payoff, our investment of stress is not even paid off with any joy that we get into it because it doesn't really matter. Like the location, it was about the union that was happening. It was about okay, we're married. Okay, right. We're together. But needless to say, we did go to Steak and Shake before we went to bed.
Yeah,
we did. And then he's like, I knew I married the right person.
We didn't. I mean, there was so much going on. I should have not eaten Steak and Shake less than 48 hours after getting my appendix removed. But
he did.
There was so much going on. We didn't really eat at the wedding.
Which is funny because just like the hotel room, we spent how much time, how many phone calls, going over with our venue, what we're going to eat, how it's going to be laid out, the decor, and it comes down to it. And I don't even think I had a bite of cake. I don't think I ate more than maybe a bite of chicken. And once again, you look at all this stress that we put in, all of this investment of stress and worry, and it didn't profit anything. I mean, we never really even enjoyed it. And so looking back, there's so many pieces like that from our wedding that we can take out, and not just our wedding, our entire life.
You remember that awkward moment when the couple that made our wedding cake for us came up to the head table and brought us 3 medium to large size tubs of chocolate, and we're like, here you go, guys. This is for you. And I didn't know who they were. They were from Charity's side of the family.
They
And
were.
I'm like, okay, I just almost died yesterday and I don't know you. And now you're bringing me tubs of chocolate, winking and like, these are for you. I don't even think we took them with us.
We did it, and it was like eerily premeditated on their part, and just
It was odd.
it was weird.
Super sweet people, but just we didn't really have the relationship for them to probably come up and
timing.
bring us tubs of chocolate and wink at us and
Yeah.
say, have fun with this.
And we left it.
Yeah, and so
Anyway, we
rabbit.
digress.
So literally, it was kind of interesting. I mean, I had stitches in my abdomen. Like we did the best we could to focus on the fact that we were together. And it seemed as though like everything that we had planned and how it was going to go and what things were going to be like, it was just a little bit different.
Every single thing, every expectation that I had was basically like mopped away right when you got sick. But I think after the wedding, every single thing that we had in our minds and all this stress that we put into it and these expectations, it just was all different. Even the things that kind of look similar, they just felt different than I think we thought they were going to feel.
Yeah, it brings something to mind. So we loved our pastor of our church in Urbana, and we actually had our youth minister ended up marrying us because our pastor was on a trip to Africa.
I think so.
I think he was in Africa with Pastor Udan Bela, one of our other favorite pastors. And basically, he said something to me that has just stayed with me. And as we do marriage counseling and pre-marriage counseling for other couples, I'm reminded of this, and I share this same thing with them. It's not my wisdom, but it's so good. Is that we spend months and thousands upon thousands of dollars preparing for one day. But in many cases, we spend no money in preparation for the health and the relationship that's going to take place beyond that one day. And so we spend all this money, all this effort, and all this time on the celebration, the event, the location, the food, the invitations, the clothing, the gifts that you give to people to help them understand how important it is that they're there with you for this day.
That get left on the table.
But yet we spend zero time, money, or energy, and if any, minimal amount of energy on investment in that relationship, counseling, preparation for all the lives that's going to take place the day after.
Yeah. And looking back, some of the sweetest times we had were times that were just organic and couldn't have even been planned or created.
Yeah.
It wasn't, like I remember one of the best times of our wedding. I think my favorite part was we just had a prayer that we lit a candle and we had a prayer and some song, and he was able to pray over us privately on the altar during that time. And in my mind, we're just like, oh, this is just something we're going to do. It wasn't the kiss. It wasn't the announcement. It wasn't walking down the aisle. It was like, getting back to making the main thing, which is that God is the center of our union. And I feel like the honeymoon was just like baptism by fire in that same lesson. We,
So, I mean, let's say, so we went to Steak and Shake. We came back, whatever. We'll leave some things to the imagination, but don't imagine about it. We're not for bad imagination. And then as we fall asleep, we are then woken up again sometime between 3 and 4 a.m.
yeah.
Just totally hot and drenched, and not because of all the reasons that you should be on that night, but because the air conditioner in the presidential suite broke down. Yes.
Yeah.
Broke down in July
on the very top floor.
On the night of our wedding.
Yeah. And it broke down. At first we're like, oh, we must have not set this right. And we're going around and trying to figure it out.
And you remember the thermostat said 92.
Yeah, it was like over 90 degrees.
92 degrees in that room.
And you called them and they were like, oh, we're not going to be able to get someone there to fix it.
They said, yeah, well, we've been replacing these one by one, but we wait for them to go out before we replace them. And I remember thinking, you do that for your presidential suite? Like you wait for something to break down before you repair it, and right there, sermon illustration,
Right.
because we don't do maintenance until it full on breaks down.
Yeah.
Nobody had checked the coolant. Nobody checked the fan. Nobody had preemptively said, hey, people are paying the top dollar for this suite. We're going to let them have a horrible experience before we say we're going to repair it. And there was no manager available. And months after that night, we were still trying to get a resolution from that hotel.
Yeah.
And the only thing that they would do instead of give us a discount was say, if you come back another night, we'll let you stay in that same room again.
And we're like, no, we're good.
I wonder if they have record of that, because, you know, our 15th is coming up.
Yeah.
And since that air conditioner is now 15 years
It's
old,
probably going to go out
we
again.
could go there and it can go out again, you know, on our 15th anniversary.
Yeah. But needless to say, you know, they're trying, you know, morning of, it's like 6 a.m., which is, you know, when you want to get up after you've been up all night the night before, being all like uncomfortable and stuff. And like having the wedding. And his buddy Elliot, who was one of his best friends that came in from California, he came to our room because the plan was for us to drive up to Chicago, drop Elliot off. He was going to go to the airport, and then we were going to stay a night in Chicago and get up like at 4:30 in the morning to go to the airport to leave for our honeymoon.
Yeah.
And so we literally, like we said, we got like zero enjoyment out of the room. It was an epic room. It was awesome. I mean, but there was, I don't even think we got breakfast. There was supposed to be this awesome breakfast included. And so it was literally just a want.
All of our guests got that awesome
did.
breakfast.
They had
I
a great
remember
time.
them being like, breakfast is so good. Here, sit with us. And we're like, we don't even want to see any of you. We're married now. We want to be by ourselves.
We're done.
Right.
And so we got all of our stuff. I think we went to pick up our bags from your mom and dad's place. And as we are about to get in the car, we realized we cannot find our tickets anywhere. And
Tickets to our honeymoon.
to our
So
honeymoon. So
what that
like
means
plane
is
tickets,
the reservation
so-
information for, I mean, it's not like we're flying with smartphones.
Right, you
Because
had
we
to
knew
have
our
it.
phones weren't going to work in Mexico because we had
Right.
flip phones that had pixelated camera pictures. It
and
was,
the Game Snake.
It was old school. And so we're literally about to leave, or think we are about to leave, and we have no flight information, we have no tickets, we have no package, and we had gotten our honeymoon taken care of through a travel agent, so there was like
we
this
had
whole
everything
thing
all
that
together.
we needed in order to be on. And I don't even know if we had our passports with us. Or
We didn't need passports then. To
oh,
go to
back in the
Mexico.
day, you could leave the
That was
country and you
the
didn't
day.
need a passport.
That's
Yep.
how old it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going and we're dropping our stuff off, and you know, immediately first day we're married, and we face like, okay, whose fault is it that we might not go on our honeymoon? And what had happened was the trip that Scott went up when he got sick and he had to have his appendix removed to Chicago, like the day before we got married. I had put underneath the front seat our packet with all the information in it for the honeymoon, thinking like
And
we
I
don't
had
have to worry
taken
about.
it out and put it in our new house, of which we were going to be moving
And
into.
he had unloaded it, and that's what
yes.
happened.
And
Yeah, and so there was lots of phone calls, lots of like smiling through gritted teeth, like, I thought you knew where this. Why would you take it out if it was already there? Lots of fun, romantic disagreements going on with your parents and your best friend watching. And we eventually had his sister go over to the house, and she found it. And so
And she met us like on
Mm-hmm.
the way, and she gave us, I don't know if you remember this, I think she gave us a deep dish pizza with the thing.
she did. I remember,
Remember that? My
that.
sister's so awesome. She
She
knows my
did.
love language is deep dish
She's
pizza.
like, I know you like wasted a whole day looking for tickets, but here's, what was it, Los Osmos or Giordano?
Yeah, I
or
felt
something
so
like
bad.
that.
She like stopped her. It was like the week. It was a weekday.
It was Monday.
And she dropped everything to just make it happen. So by the time we get back to Chicago, we get like a few hours in this hotel that was astronomical just outside O'Hare Airport.
And we were supposed to get up there like at 1 or 2. So we're thinking we're going to be able to have dinner. We're going to be able to hang out. We're going to be able to do all these things. And I remember one of his family members.
And watch fireworks.
That was the big thing. We wanted to see fireworks. That's one of his favorite holidays is 4th of July. That was the whole reason about getting married around the 4th of July. And one of his family members had had like the morning of at breakfast said, hey, is there anything else? Do you guys have a hotel? Do you have anything that you need to help with as far as going up? And he's like, actually, I do. I need to make a reservation for a hotel, which I thought he already had done, but he hadn't. And
right. So it turns out in Chicago, if you try to make a reservation for a hotel like the day of, and you're in one of these areas, like it's between $375 and $500 for a night.
For like an airport hotel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so they're like, oh, we'll take care of it. And so they called us, gave us the information. We're like, that was so nice of them to do that.
We showed up. They had the reservation. They were like, yes, we have that reservation. Okay. That will be $385. And I thought, leaving on the plane in 6 hours.
Not even 6 hours. It was like 4 hours. And it was just funny because they're like, we're going to get you a really nice, we just want to take care of you and get you a really nice hotel.
It ended up working out because my family member paid for it. It was awesome. I don't even think that they realized that we were minimal in the time that we were even going to use the hotel room. We were so exhausted. And we get through a couple hours. I mean, it was sleeping like barely.
I didn't even go to
up.
sleep. I think you went to sleep and I like repacked our stuff.
And then we get to the airport and we get on the plane.
Well, before we even got on the plane, we're going through security and I had a suitcase.
Oh, when the security guard looked through your unmentionables.
I had a suitcase.
Right in front of us.
Dedicated just
Christian
to like.
couple waiting till we're married, to be together. And then here we are in front of another adult with them digging through.
And we're talking the line was probably hundreds of people. And of course, everyone's waiting for this checkpoint. And so everyone's just staring and they're like, what's in here? And we're the one suitcase they opened it.
I have a feeling that security knows when they're going to like look at your underwear.
Yeah, well, they looked at a lot of it. And I'm like, let's just walk away. I can't do this right now.
So I kind of thought that was funny because it wasn't my underwear. So I thought it was funny.
It was
embarrassing. But then we get on the plane, and I wouldn't say the first good thing, but like one of the things that like we needed to go well, just to have something fun and good happen, because the last 48 hours was full of just so many things. I don't know if you remember, on the plane, they asked everyone in a seat to give $1.
And put your seat number on it,
right? Write your seat number on your dollar. And they collected all of them. And whatever dollar they pulled out was going to win all of the dollars from everyone on the plane and a bottle of champagne, right? And they pulled our number out. And we won somewhere around $120 in $1 bills. A little weird to be going to Mexico with a suitcase full of underwear and $121 bills. And we won that bottle of champagne, and I just felt like this is it. That's the tipping point. From here on out, everything that happens is going to be amazing, just like the jackpot we just hit. Yeah. And we had our tip money for the whole trip.
Our what money?
Our tip.
Okay.
Tip money for the whole trip because it was like $120. So, everybody who like helped us and handled our bags, I was like, oh, you get $1, you get $4.
You get $1.
I seem cheap if I say you get $1 because I was like, I don't think gave any less than $3.
Okay.
But so I just need to clarify that I'm not that cheap.
Yeah. But so we get there and
the place was amazing.
It was amazing. We went to Moon Palace in Cancun and it was unbelievable. I had never been out of the country. I'd never flown on the plane and I had never been on a trip without a chaperone.
Come on.
So I'm like, this is amazing. This is how the other half lives. I don't have to check in anywhere. Like, I don't have to call my destination. Like, hey, I am at the food court right now. I'll see you in an hour and a half. It was just very like epic. And so I'm thinking, all right, we're going to go dance. We're going to go to a cool restaurant. Everything was all inclusive. We're going to go to swim. And we get in and Scott's like, I think I just want to lay down and like order a sandwich. And I was just like, are you?
A bacon tomato sandwich, we found out, which was a staple every day at the resort while we were there. But let me tell you, I think one of the reasons why I was able to handle my surgery so well, because I had a major adrenaline rush, I had purpose, and once that purpose was gone and once that adrenaline stopped, I felt like I needed to sleep. I mean, I was like still recovering, and I was very excited to be there, but I thought, finally, like, I can sleep. And I don't sleep very well on planes. I don't. My shoulders are a little too wide. We'll just call it that. I'm a little too big for plane seats sometimes. And I can tell you that I probably began to open the window to you seeing what some of our future was going to be like because I was exhausted.
He was exhausted.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, I'm like, it's okay. You're a wife now. Be understanding, Charity. I'm like, okay, so we'll eat and then we'll go somewhere.
So she stood on the balcony and like looked outside at the world of Mexico and Cancun, and it's
Like longingly.
you know, Playa del Carmen, I think we were,
I have no
or something.
idea.
We were in Riviera Maya.
Yeah, Riviera Maya.
And she's just like, oh, the world is at her fingertips and this is amazing. And she looks over and she sees her like husband with stickers all over his belly from his incisions, snoring his brains out. And this is the beginning of the honeymoon.
Yeah. And so I was really, like, I'm going to be really honest. I was so disappointed. I was ready to go and have a good time. And we get there. And I feel like that was a point where a lot of my insecurities just in marriage kind of sparked, was me thinking, this is just going to be me and you. We're on this adventure. And your reference, like, yes, you were tired and like you wanted, you were hurt, but your reference for marriage was kind of like, okay, we're like two adults. Like this is what we do. We relax, like we hang out. And I'm thinking like, no, we're two like people in love and we just got married and we're on this adventure. And so our expectations probably could not have been further apart. Like he didn't understand why I wasn't happy and content, because this is what marriage is.
And I was exhausted and I could not provide the level of ravaging that she was probably expecting.
Oh my gosh, you did not.
Do you think that that's what it was? Because I was just tired. I had to rest.
Yeah.
And you were just like, what is wrong with my lion?
Okay.
Right?
I was thinking, what is wrong with me? Like I thought we were going to get married and things are going to be amazing. And that did not happen.
Well, it did happen.
I mean,
but
like,
I wasn't like the most healthy and ready to just have an amazing vacation and run around
Right.
all over the place. But
Yeah.
we found ourselves in some adventures while we were there, did we not?
yeah, I got pink eye while we were on a jet ski, and then Scott was having a lot of fun on the jet ski, and so he thought it wasn't a big deal to keep driving when I was crying, please stop, I can't see, I'm gonna fall in the water.
So I like
that was
jumped off
one
the thing.
thing.
But she had some crazy.
I had really bad pink eye. I
know
don't
what-
even know how.
Conjunctivitis,
Yeah.
in case anybody wants to know what it's really
So
called.
we went to the pharmacy in Mexico and we found eye drops.
Yeah, but
and
I'm pretty sure
like
she
within
didn't.
2 hours, they
The jury is still out. I'm not sure that she ended up, in case you're wondering, we're close to an Air Force base and they're testing out new planes that just got sold to Indonesia. So if you hear them, it was in the paper. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
But basically, they gave us some medicine, and I'm pretty confident that in Spanish, the tube said nariz,
It
which
didn't. It
means
said
for
ojo.
nose. And so I'm pretty sure that she healed her conjunctivitis, her pink eye, with something that was supposed to be sprayed into her nose.
True story though, it was like better in 2 hours.
Yeah.
No joke. Like
So,
2 hours. I felt better.
We're not physicians, so we don't recommend what you
Please
should
don't do
do.
it.
But if you have pink eye, I'm just saying, okay? And it's not going away with the regular medicine, maybe you should consider some
Don't-
other forms of
Don't
medication.
consider any
Just
other
consider.
forms. Don't do it.
I don't know.
But so that was one thing. And so there was a little bit of tension going on that because you just were really excited to be on the Sea-Doo or jet ski, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very not excited that you would not slow down and let me off while I had my eyes crusted closed.
Well, I was in a part of our marriage where I wasn't considerate.
That was a long part. Just
so
gonna put that in there.
I'm so considerate now, but I just wasn't,
For
Aren't
a
you
while.
glad that here at the start of year 15, that last year I started being a little bit more considerate?
You said last. I think you meant this.
This year. Yeah, this year I started being a little bit more considerate.
Just joking.
We need
JK.
to keep the podcast honest, so maybe this year. Right, I get it. But honestly, we had booked some really fun excursions. One of the things that I was excited to do with Charity is we rented a Jeep, an open air Jeep, and we were just going to go explore Mexico. And so we rode around. And
I was not so excited, but I'm like, this is what he wants to do. So I'm going to act excited.
well, and the way that I framed it
excited.
was, I'm going to help you experience another country, because we had talked about maybe doing mission work and being missionaries. And I was like, this is your chance to see what it's like to get off the resort, to get our own vehicle and go see. And
I had literally in my mind think, why do I want to leave the resort? Look at the resort. I don't need to leave here. And so there was just how we are wired kind of was at play very much in that whole excursion.
Oh, baby, post-wedding day, all of the facade and smoke and mirrors are stripped away.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why
gone.
I looked so good.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But basically we had the Jeep and we went and got to look at the ocean and drove to like our own places and got gas and almost got like robbed while we were getting gas.
Got lost.
But we had scheduled a couples massage there at the resort where we were going to be together out on a beach, each on our own table, and people who were professionals were going to rub our aching bodies. And
so creepy
that
how
was
you said
scheduled.
that.
And I had never had that, so I was really looking forward to that. But on top of that, we booked parasailing.
Yeah, we were going to go parasailing.
And it was pretty awesome. It was from some guy on a beach with a half deteriorated laminated card who said, I take you in the air. See that
Well, in the
parachute?
resort,
Let's
and
go.
it was well recommended. He was right there with every.
Well, you couldn't
everyone.
get on our. You could not access. Let's remove my Indiana language. You could not access that portion of the beach without being like certified to patron
And
the,
it was
the
paid-
residents of the resort.
And it was paid for through, our tab at the resort. And so we signed up. We had other people, saw them coming and going. I'm like, you know what? That looks like really fun. Let's go do that. That's something that's not super high impact, because I knew that, he couldn't do a lot. He couldn't go scuba diving, and he was a certified scuba diver. So he was super disappointed.
Yeah, they didn't recommend it with my incisions. That was one of the things that my doctor said.
And so that was like a big thing we wanted to do, is he was going to take me scuba diving for the first time. So I'm like, you know what, let's do this instead. That's something we can do. And so we were about to get on the boat. There was like a little, what do they call them? Like the little bitty boat that took you to the boat out there.
A dinghy.
A dinghy. That's what it was.
A Zodiac.
There was a little dinghy that took us out there. And as we're getting on, there's another couple getting off. And we're like, how was it? They're like, it was amazing. It was so smooth. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And
you
I'm
could
like,
see other people having the time of their lives,
And
700 feet in the air.
And so we took up, I think we took up, no, we left our camera with the people that were driving. We're like, hey, take a couple pictures of us.
Right, because our camera was not digital.
Yeah, it was. It was my digital camera.
That I got you, because digital cameras were a new thing.
And I got one. I was like
got you
rolling.
one.
I was so excited. And so we took it everywhere. But, it wasn't like now where you take it up and you have, you can see from up there. And so we go up there and we start going out towards the water. And we go up and we go up fine. And we get up there and I'm like, this is amazing. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, this is like a moment. This is
the water in the
so
right side
cool.
of Cancun is like this greenish blue that's clear. You can see, holes, and you can see like vegetation in the water, but you can also see the land, and you can see just so much. I mean, it was amazing.
So they took us out past where the people were doing the jet skis and the recreation stuff. So we were kind of like, our resort was, on the coast, and we were not just out from the coast. We were like out to the left or something.
Yeah.
And we get up there.
That shows my wife's sense of direction.
I have no sense of
direction. We
direction.
were out to the left. In case you're wondering, out to the
Just
left.
to the left, somewhere in Cancun. That's
It's
exactly
pretty
where we were.
Definitive. Yeah.
Right next to the tree. So, so we get up there, and I'm like, this this is awesome. Like, God, you are just amazing. And God always is amazing. But it was just one of those
She was like,
moments.
not only do I get this man, but look at your creation. Yeah. This is amazing.
I think that was my exact thought. You pulled it right out of my brain.
Yeah.
And so we're up there, and all of a sudden, we felt like kind of a sink, like a jerk. And we looked down, and the boat that was attached to and towing us turned around and was facing us
and bobbing.
And I looked at Scott, and I was still trying to process, like, are they turning around? And Scott, has a little bit more know-how in life at that point than I did. And he goes, very calmly, he goes, okay, we're going to hit the water. I need you to be calm. It's going to be okay. Take a deep breath when we hit. And I'm like, what do you mean we're going to hit the water? We're not going to hit the water.
I said the boat is broken down.
And he's like, we're not going to, we're stopped. We're about to hit the water. And as he's saying these, it sounds like a long conversation, but it was a very fast progression. And all of a sudden we started to do like a free fall.
Yeah.
As soon as we stopped,
our parachute stopped being a parachute.
Yes.
And started
there was
being
no resistance.
a deflated kite.
And we went, and how high up do we think we were?
So I remember seeing them with this double crank trying to reel the slack in, but the slack was totally out because the boat turned towards us and was coming towards us. So no matter how hard they were cranking, there was too much slack. So the wire that once provided tension to keep us in the air was hanging straight down. There was no more. And I would probably say, we were still several hundred feet in the air.
Yeah, we were up there. Yeah. And so it took us a little bit to get down, even though we were free falling. That's why I knew we were up pretty high.
I would probably say about 15 seconds.
Yeah, it wasn't just like a bam, you're down. It was, you knew what was going on, and it was pretty terrifying. And so we hit, but we were attached. And so when we hit, Scott actually landed on top of me. Yeah. And I hit the water. So I broke the fall, and he landed on me.
Right.
And
it was bad.
We had our life jackets on. But
the parachute itself was dragging us down with every
caught the
wave.
tide. And so like the current was now into our open parachute that was in the water, and it was pulling us down.
We were being drowned.
And even though we had our life jackets on. And so the people were pulling and pulling, and we would kind of bob up here and there.
Once we got closer to the boat,
we got closer, it was better. And so they pulled us in, and
I knew that it was pulling us underwater. So it was to the point where there wasn't enough time to get a full breath in between each swell that was taking us under. And I knew that if I unhooked my big body, that maybe that would provide relief of enough drag to pull her face out of the water. And so I begin to unhook my pins from the parachute. And as I do, immediately Charity is lifted out of the water. And the parachute reinflates because the tension is greater and the weight is less. And in that process, I began to drift because the waves, we were far enough out where we had to be in the air quite a bit to see the land. And so we were pretty far out.
Yeah, there was nothing around us. There was no other boats. There was nothing.
And I remember the waves were so strong as they were reaching over the edge of the boat, because we were on like this dinghy blow up thing, but the boat was still high enough out of the water that you really couldn't reach down and grab someone's arm. And so they basically grabbed my arm. I was holding on, and the waves still ripped me away from the person who was trying to hold on to me.
And so the whole reason this all happened is because their boat broke. I don't know if they were out of gas or it broke. I can't remember. I just know that they kept trying to restart it. It wasn't starting, and we were just sitting there. And so the entire time, Scott is literally just drifting out in the middle of the ocean, getting farther and farther away. And there was enough of a wave cap that you could only see him every once in a while. And, I don't have a cell phone. I don't have a way to get a hold of anyone. I'm sitting there with two strangers that are trying to get this small boat going. And I'm like, my husband's out there.
It had a platform for a parachute, so it was probably like a 30-foot boat.
Yeah, but it wasn't like a big boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they ended up trying to, I think they had a walkie-talkie and they tried to call somebody from the resort on a dinghy to come out, which all in all took, I mean, in the state that you're waiting, you know, you see your husband like just going away to see.
I'm not sure how long it was because it
felt
very
like
long.
forever. It felt like forever. It was probably 10 minutes that you were out there by yourself.
Just drifting.
Just drifting.
And I remember like drifting fairly fast. Every wave that came would like bring me farther out, and then it was like bringing them the opposite direction. And I remember it getting to a point where I couldn't see the boat anymore.
And we couldn't see
regardless of the wave swells. I just could not see the boat. And I remember hearing Charity for a while at the beginning scream, you know, go get my husband. That's my husband. Like, that's my husband. And I'm drifting off to sea. And I remember seeing those deep blue circles from the sky, and I could look down through the water, and I was over one of those holes. Well, one of the excursions that they had was like to go swim with sharks. And so I knew
2 for 1
that there were sharks all around there. And so I have to be honest, my toes are curling, and I'm singing songs. I remember singing like Jesus Loves Me. I remember singing
Star Spangled Banner.
God Bless America, or the Star Spangled Banner or something, just to try to keep my mind occupied, because I could just picture one of these sharks like coming up out of the blue hole and nibbling my toes. And I'm just there, and I'm just having this moment like, I don't know what's going to happen. They never told me a boat's coming. Like, I don't know. I'm just drifting and drifting and drifting.
Yeah. And so eventually a dinghy came, and, you know, you just feel powerless. You can't do anything. I don't have a way to get over there. I don't even have an oar, like nothing. And so just praying to God, like, God, please, like, what the heck just happened? You know, he already almost died like 3 days ago. Here we are again. Is he going to die this time? Are you trying to tell me something? Like, what is going on?
Well, I remember me, you know, climbing over the side of the rubber boat after they found me. I remember at some point seeing something and waving my hands, and they found me and brought me over to you because the boat was broken down, and you climbed into the dinghy with me.
And then we
took about a 15-minute to 20-minute ride
Yeah.
back to the thing. But in the process, what you were about to say was they shook their tip jar at us. Like, hey, you want to give us a tip? And we just were in unbelief.
Yeah, I was just, are you kidding me right now?
And as we're going back to the water, I can see that Charity is bruised from her shoulder down to her knee.
Yeah.
And she's beginning to not just have redness, but purple and different colors. And we get off of this dinghy to the shore. And I remember the guy who sold us the package being there saying, 1 in a million, 1 in a million. He's like, this never happened before, like 1 in a million. And we just realized that, like, I have to be honest, like, when I touched land, I'd never really had an experience like that where it just felt amazing to have my feet on ground.
Yeah.
And feeling that, and then grabbing Charity's hand and knowing that she was hurt, and just feeling like I just want to like sit somewhere in the quiet and no more adventures, and let's just be together because something is trying to tear us apart.
That's what it felt like. Like, I remember thinking after the second or third thing that happened, like, okay, is this my life forever now? Is everything I try to do going to be just difficult and
this is either like an incredible thing that God has ordained and destined us to be together, and all the forces of darkness have united to destroy what God will do through this union, or we should have never been together in the first place.
I was no joke thinking, okay, God, did I miss something here? I don't know if like this, are you trying to tell me something?
But I can tell you that all of this and the rest of the honeymoon ended up being much more mellow, however, full of some stress. And getting back from the honeymoon started an entirely new adventure full of more challenges, more life along the way. However, we realized through each thing that we went through that the things that sustained us were God and each other. And I just want to just kind of publicly say here on the podcast that I wouldn't have wanted to go through any of that horrible stuff without you.
Aw, me too.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
So
I think that's something that a lot of times when you're looking for a partner or not looking, or, just evaluating being with someone or dreaming about, if you're single, like dreaming about who you're going to be with, if you're newly single, divorced, whatever it looks like, you're thinking, I want to do all these awesome things with this person. I want a person that's going to do this and this and this. But a lot of times we don't think about the type of person we want to be with when we're going through all the opposition, when we're going through all the chaos, when we're going through the really, really hard things. And I would venture to say the person that you can be with through all of the hard things is much more important than the type of person you want to enjoy with the easy things.
yeah,
Because if we've learned anything is that, things are fun and things can be exciting, but for the most point, like your joy comes from a point of reference of your mind and your relationship. And so your experiences, whether or not they're hard or easy, the joy that you get from them is going to be, a product of the relationship that you have with your partner, but also with your Savior. And I think it's really important. It's a very good example. Our honeymoon. And what's funny is we look back at our honeymoon and we think, man, that was crazy. But we will still to this day say that was the best trip of our life. It was amazing. Even though we almost died and I got pink eye and all these crazy things. And I think that's the perspective that we're missing in our culture.
I'd do it again, sans catastrophes.
Maybe one of I'd be okay if, we would be okay.
Yeah.
For that trip. It was pretty awesome.
Right. It was pretty awesome. Well, we kind of want to wrap up episode 2 and just thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We've got to tell you that this is just the beginning.
If you only knew.
If you only knew. And if you stay with us and track with us in these coming weeks, you'll find out what we're talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot more story and a lot more life along the way.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us for episode 2 of our podcast. Yeah. Can't wait to join us, to join you and have you join us on our next episode as we continue with life along the way.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.